Good morning. This is Frank Taylor with a May 1st episode of Nature in Your Backyard. And I'm not in my backyard today because, well, it's cold outside. It's actually 39, 40 degrees here at 2,700 feet in Floyd. I did a really good video on elevation on Wednesday. If you want to see the difference elevation makes. It is always cooler up here. But one of the main reasons I'm inside today is because it's so dark outside and I needed better light to make this video today. So you know that I've been following nature for the last 5 weeks since school's closed, and I'm trying to create an opportunity for young kids and families and parents at home to engage with their children. And I kind of talk to kids when I'm doing this. But my content is rich and I introduce a lot of biology content. And so what I've been showing people is if you walk outside your house today and walk in your backyard or walk in the woods, what will you see? What's blooming, or what might have fallen on the ground, or what might be coming active? And we watch spring wildflowers coming out, and we've seen different kinds of insects emerging. And now that it's springtime, we're also seeing a lot of snakes getting active again. And these snakes have been hibernating. And I need to shout out, before I forget, to my grandson Henry, who's watching today in Chattanooga. And I do want to point out, I'm getting a group of people across the Appalachians. Please share this. I want teachers and kids all through our regional area to be able to see this because it applies not just to my Radford City students who live in the Appalachian Mountains, but to a much broader area. In fact, my grandson Henry watched one of my videos on what's blooming today and found that flower blooming that same day. And I also want to point out, man, I'm having so much fun interacting with my former students, and I appreciate you guys sending me texts and encouragement and telling me how much you enjoy it. But what makes it really, really special to me is that my former students are having their kids watch this, and they want my kids to be able to interact with me about topics in biology and nature. And then 2 days ago, thank you, I found out that I've got the grandkids of my former students watching. So let's get to today's program. Today, again, was what are you going to find outside in your backyard or your front yard? And Lauren Zykes Black, one of my former students, and I also had her 2 brothers in school, Ryan and Rudy, were able to corral a snake that she found in her front yard. And I make jokes about this. I said, what are you supposed to do when you find a snake? Well, you should take a picture of it and message me right away, right? And Lauren did exactly that because she knew that you know, I want to find these things. I want to be able to share them with you. So here's what Lauren found in her front yard. And I always make jokes. I say, you never know what you're going to find outside, right? And so this is a snake that she found, and what I'm really glad was that the first thing a lot of people do, they see, oh my God, a snake, and for some reason they want to run and get a shovel and chop it up. Please don't do that. You know, the thing about snakes is, snakes are really different from us. You know, they don't have legs, they don't have eyelids, which I think gives them that really cold, unblinking stare, right? And they don't move like we do. They're really, really different from us. And this guy, I just picked him up, so he's a little bit extra active, but he'll settle down here in a moment. You know, snakes have been in history forever. It's hard not to react to a snake one way or another, either in wonder or in fear. In fact, if you look through history, you know, snakes were revered by the ancient Egyptians. It was the symbol of kings, and they had a cobra on the top of their heads. In the Bible, one of the earliest stories, like the earliest story in the Bible, is about a snake that tempts Adam and Eve. Snakes have been come up and through history all the place. We have baseball teams and sports teams named after different snakes. We have cars named after snakes. So love them or hate them, snakes are always been a big part of our culture. So this particular snake species, you can see that he's about maybe 18, 20 inches long. And yesterday I put some pictures on Facebook and I said, hey, quick, what kind of snake is this? It might be a life or death matter to identify it. What do you think it is? And I got a lot of great responses. And I'm glad nobody said Copperhead, because a lot of times when people see a snake and it's got a pattern on it, they go, oh, Copperheads have patterns. That must be a Copperhead. And if I had a nickel for every dead snake with his head chopped off that people have sent me or called me and said, hey, Frank, I got a Copperhead here. He's dead. Do you want to see him? And I'm like, yeah, I want to see him. I'd love to see a Copperhead. But every time someone's called me, it's been a black snake, which is not actually black when they're young, or it's been another snake. Except Jessalyn Monday, who called me up from school in the city of Richmond, and Jessalyn said, Mr. Taylor, I think this is a Copperhead, or I think she was even more confident than that, and she found a Copperhead on the street in Richmond near her university that she was attending. And so, yeah, Copperheads are here, but they're really not as common as people make them out to be. And they're common in certain places, but a lot of times, you just don't see them. So now you can see that, this snake is calming down. He's a wild snake, and he's not a pet snake. And I just wanted to show you that, snakes aren't as crazy and vicious and all that as you think. A lot of times, snakes are scared that you're going to eat them. And like this snake has figured out, well, this guy's not going to eat me. And he's calm. And I've gone out and picked up snakes in the wild before, and they'll struggle for a minute or two. And then they'll just calm down. And they're pretty chill and okay to get along. Now, some snake species don't calm down, like water snakes. They get really nippy. They're very aggressive. They won't calm down at all. So be careful if you're handling snakes, and always be sure that it's not a copperhead or a rattlesnake. And we'll talk more about poisonous snakes in today's episode as well. So and I just got so many things that I want to cover and stuff today. So this, you can see this snake has what are called blotches on it. And if we turn the snake over and look at the bottom, you can see that there's sort of a checkerboard pattern to it on the bottom. The other thing I want you to see is on this snake, there is a, what they'll say, this snake is characterized by a Y shape or V shape on its forehead. And this almost looked like a heart shape, like Casey Anton noticed that. And texted me and said, hey, that looks like a heart on him. Yeah, so the Y-shaped marking, which is distinguishing of a milk snake, if you've been waiting for it. I thought this was a corn snake at first, because milk snakes, the ones I'm used to seeing, usually have much brighter colors than this. And this one is called the blotched phase, and it doesn't have the bright colors of the other morph of the milk snake that looks more like a coral snake mimic, which is a poisonous snake. So this is a milk snake. Looks a lot like a corn snake, but the corn snake, if you look at the back of his head, will have a pattern that looks more like a spear right here. And a milk snake will have a Y-shaped or V-shaped, and in this case, a heart-shaped look to it. Now, another thing I need to point out, and you may have noticed already, that this snake is not very well. And there's all kinds of skin blemishes here up and down the length. I was wondering almost if he'd gotten maybe run over by a car on the pavement. But then when I look at his eyes are clouded over, and he's having trouble closing his mouth. And this snake has is most likely has a fungal disease. My original plan, and what I do with most of the organisms that I pick up and share to show you and stuff, I keep them for a day or two. We do some video with it and sharing, and then I put them back in the wild in the same place that I found them. You never want to transport any amphibians or reptiles or animals from one place and release them in another place. And sorry, Lauren, I was planning to release them back near that stream. But when I got talking to my herpetology friends, herpetology means to study reptiles, we brought up the ethics of returning a snake or an animal that we know is sick back into the population. So here's the crazy thing. There's kind of a snake pandemic going on right now. There's a fungal disease that is spreading rapidly to snakes and affecting their longevity and their health. Apparently it's really bad with rattlesnakes. I have to say that with a smile because there's not a lot of sympathy for this disease that's spreading through the snake population. Personally, I'm very concerned about it. So today, instead of releasing this snake back into the wild, where he was found like I normally would, I'm going to be meeting with a veterinarian later today who specializes in working with snakes and is concerned about what's going on with this fungal disease that's spread rapidly through snakes on the East Coast. So it's in effect like a snake pandemic. And this will contribute to research and understanding. He'll get swabbed to identify if in fact he does have the fungus, and he'll get treatment in a wildlife rehab facility for that. But more importantly than that, it's going to give us more information, another data point in our research for what is going on with the fungal population in snakes. I wanted to talk about some snake characteristics again a little bit. So snakes have two nostrils on their forehead, but they don't have ears and they don't have eyelids. So, but without ears, how can they hear? Well, think about where snakes live. Snakes lie on the ground, and so they're really, really good at feeling vibrations. The body plan of snakes is pretty interesting too, because like in our body plan, we got sort of a right and a left. We're what's called bilateral. I got a left lung and a right lung. Well, this guy has a left lung and a right lung too, but his, let me see if I remember, his right lung, I hope I remember this right, and that's why you always fact check me. Don't believe things you see on video or on TV. This is live. You never know what someone's going to say. And that's one of the things I want you to do. Like after this video, I want you to look up milk snakes on Google. If you're watching me on video, you have access to the internet. And if you have access to the internet, you have access to the world. And I always tell people, I don't want you to just watch this video. I want you to go outside. I want you to look for stuff. I want you to ask questions. I want you to Google stuff, talk to your parents about it, talk about it in the family, talk about it at dinner, and interact with this stuff. So snakes, instead of having this bilateral symmetry, everything is in a row. And so he has, though he has two lungs, one is big and one is reduced, and it goes a long way down his body. And so a lot of his internal organs are arranged in a length rather than bilaterally like we are. So the scales underneath the snake, let me see if I can show you his underneath scales. See how long they are? And on bigger snakes, I can take my finger like this and rub my finger along those underneath scales. Let me see if I can do that. And you can see that they'll respond to me like one scale at a time. And so with these scales, when I was teaching biology, and some of my students will remember this, I took a 5-foot long black snake and put him against the block wall of my classroom, and that snake climbed straight up the block wall using his touch and muscular control of each one of these scales. So a lot of snakes are pretty good climbers. And so people, if you're afraid of snakes and you're spending your time looking down, sometimes you need to look up. We were down at Conley's Run one day, and we were collecting aquatic insects, and somebody tapped me on my shoulder and said, "Hey, Mr. Taylor, look up." And there was a 5-foot long black snake in a branch about 5 feet, 6 feet over or just a few feet over our heads right above the stream. So a lot of snakes are good climbers, and they take advantage of their climbing ability. Some of these snakes will eat birds and birds' eggs. A snake like this is a constrictor. He doesn't have poison, so when he catches his prey, he prepares it to eat by wrapping its coils around it and tightening those coils until that prey is ready to be swallowed. So this guy is primarily a mammal eater. Different snakes have different diets. This guy will eat mice and voles. And so they play an ecological role in providing some balance. You know, mice and rats, that population, without predators, without some balance, can really, really get out of control fast. So we can say that the snakes, if you like, have a positive role in our environment by keeping down the population of rats and mice that could potentially carry disease for us. So some people need to have a reason to say, hey, let's protect those snakes. I saw when I was posting some stuff online about somebody had a black snake in their barn, and people saying, yeah, that's really good, you can't have the black snakes there because they'll eat the copperheads and keep the copperheads away. Well, black snakes don't actually eat copperheads, but there's a point to be made that if you have black snakes in your barn, they are going to be there to eat the mice and the rats that are there. And if you have black snakes there, you're likely not to have copperheads because they're taking that niche. They're in that place that a snake could place. And I don't think barns are really good habitat for copperheads anyway. But you can definitely make the argument that if you have a non-poisonous snake there in that niche, occupying that habitat, you're less likely to have a poisonous snake. So look at having a black snake around your house or your barn as a good thing. So this is a milk snake, commonly confused with a corn snake. In this vantage point, we have you can see it's opening his mouth a little bit there. The milk snakes have that Y or heart shape or V shape on the back of their head, whereas right here a corn snake will have what looks more like the top of a spear. I'm going to put this guy in here now, and I want to switch my camera around and talk to you a little bit about poisonous snakes, because people always ask about, well, what are the poisonous snakes? How to identify a poisonous snake? I got this guide that I used when I was teaching biology. This is produced by the Virginia Department of Game and Inland Fisheries, and they had a grant for this, and for a while you could write them and they would send you for a free copy of this. I did a quick look on the internet, and you can buy this on Amazon. You can buy everything on Amazon. So let's take a look in this book and say, what do they say about how to identify a poisonous snake? And I'm going to switch my camera around. And here is their presentation on how to identify a poisonous snake. So one of the first things you can look at, and of course I always think it's funny because you have to get down close, right? Is, does it have a round pupil? So non-poisonous snakes, all non-poisonous snakes have a round pupil. A poisonous snake has a vertical pupil. See how the pupil, and it makes them look mean and scary, doesn't it? Another thing they have is a pit. Along with the nostrils, they have a pit. And the pit is a heat-seeking pit, which I think is really cool. So a snake like a copperhead or a rattlesnake or a water moccasin, they all have these pits. And so they can find their prey like a heat-seeking missile. They can pick up in the darkness heat and find their prey that way. Another thing you want to do, if you think you have a poisonous snake or not, is pick their tail up and look underneath their tail. So right here, this is the business end of a snake. This is like where his poop will come out, right? So below that scale that covers the business part of the snake, you can see that non-poisonous snakes have a double row of scales, and a poisonous snake will have unbroken scales. See how they're split in half here after this point of the business end, and here they're not. So I always think, man, that's a great way to identify a poisonous snake, isn't it? Pick up the back of his tail and see if the scales are split or not. So, but that is a true characteristic. So what are the poisonous snakes of Virginia? We've got 3. And one that you can find here in our area, of course, is the Copperhead. Where's my Copperhead? Here's my Copperhead. And the Copperhead really is very distinctive. It has a really distinct, unmistakable color to it. Here's a group of copperheads. You'll be glad to know that copperheads give birth to live young, and all the young have fangs and poison and are ready to go. So a single copperhead can give birth to 3 to 15 live young. The other snake that we have in our area, easier to identify, is the timber rattlesnake. And timber rattlesnakes, of course, have a rattle, and you'll hear a buzzing sound if you get near one. And I've got to tell you that in all the time I've spent in the forest, walking through the woods, turning over rocks, looking for stuff, I have actually never seen a live copperhead in the wild. And I have looked and looked and looked. I mean, we're talking 60 years in the forest. I'm out all the time, hiking all the time. I've never found a copperhead. 3 times I've found a rattlesnake. And found is a different, interesting word, because when I say found, what I really mean is that he rattled and then I saw him. So that's always a good thing. And the last thing I want to show you is the cottonmouth or water moccasin. And the most important thing I want to show you about the cottonmouth is its range. Okay, here is a map of Virginia. And I want you to look at this closely, and I want you to listen to me. This is the only range that the water moccasin, known as a cottonmouth, exists. We see where my finger is. This is where we live. This is where cottonmouths and water moccasins live. You did not see a cottonmouth on the New River yesterday. Now, I've seen cottonmouths. I've been down in the Tidewater region. I've gone down there doing bike rides and 100-mile bike rides through the swamps, and I can't tell you how many cottonmouths I've seen. And I've hiked down on the lowlands there. And cottonmouths are very aggressive. They're very territorial. And I've known they're the cottonmouths because they'll kind of curl halfway up. They'll open their mouth like this, and this is why they're called cottonmouths. And they'll open their mouth like that, and they'll show me the white inside of their mouth. And then, this was so cool, the cottonmouth open his mouth, and he'd take his fangs and extend them like that. And I tried to walk around him, and as I walked around him, he would keep turning facing me and keep opening that mouth and keep showing me that white mouth. That's why they call him a cottonmouth. So very distinctive snakes. So my daughter-in-law from Tennessee told me to come down to Tennessee. She said, I'll see a lot more copperheads down there. So I think generally copperheads aren't widespread, but I will say that in certain places that the habitat is right, you'll probably see them frequently. And maybe I just haven't been in the right places to see them. So many more species of snakes, not poisonous in Virginia, play an important role in the ecology. One last thing, if you get bit by a snake, and that's a big thing. People say, well, does that snake bite? And that's a separate question from whether the snake is venomous or not. And I hope I've used the word venomous. Poisonous refers to things that you eat. When you talk about a snake is venomous, a mushroom is poisonous. And I've mixed up those words before. And I've had some young guys call me out on it. So I hope I've been using the terms right. So a poisonous snake, a venomous snake, when he bites you, injects poison with fangs. And if you've been bitten by you'll get a bite pattern that looks like this. And this would be the fangs. If you get bit by a non-poisonous snake, non-venomous, see, I keep doing that, a non-venomous snake, you get a pattern that looks like this. So snakes don't really have teeth, but they have a bony palate, and they've got little sharp divots on that. And think about it, if you're going to catch a mouse, they're pretty wriggly and wiggly. You need something to grip on if you're going to swallow that mouse. And you want to make sure that the swallowing action goes backward down your belly. So, almost any animal with a mouth can bite. And whether he can bite you or not depends on how, if it hurts, depends on how strong his jaws are and if he can get his mouth open far enough. I've been bit, and some of my students already were giving me the, hey, Mr. Taylor, you remember that time? I'm trying to be the big biologist outdoors, and I'll pick up a black snake, and if I don't have him secured right and he's not settled yet, he can deliver a pretty good bite that'll break the skin, and I can tell you it'll bleed. But it's not toxic. He's not injecting venom into me. So a bite from a non-venomous snake, they can bite, but it depends on, it's more like a scratch, really, if they bite you. So I hope I covered everything I wanted. There's so many things that I wanted to cover today. Thank you for spending your time with me. So this has been a Facebook Live presentation. After my Facebook, I love doing a live because I feel like I'm really like talking to you and teaching you, and you're here with me, and it energizes me and makes me excited, and I'm just always humbled by the fact that you want to listen to me. This will go on to my YouTube channel with edits and printed words, and it's great because then I can go back and correct all the misspoken things that I did, and then have typing on it that lays it out. So after this video, I will go back, edit, put some more information on, correct anything that I did on the live video. Remember, fact check me. Did I say it right? Look stuff up, and you'll find out some more interesting things. So I will continue to follow spring as we go through the year. I'm going to keep trying to. As I walk through the woods or walk in my backyard and see something, I'll say, hey, people will probably see this. Let me tell them the story. And remember, I want you to go outside. I want you to discover things. I want you to look for what you can find out there. And that's how I found out about the cicadas. I don't know why I hadn't heard it, but one of my viewers wrote me and said, hey, I found these holes in the ground. What do you think they are? And I didn't know what they were. and then one thing led to another. So I'm learning along with you guys too. I want you to know I don't know everything. I'm exploring with you, and that's what makes it really fun. So go outside, see what you can find, look stuff up. If I give you the name of something, that's not the end. That's only the beginning. Look it up. Find out about its history and culture and uses. So thank you for watching me today. It was a lot of fun. I think I covered all the things that I wanted to do. Please send me questions. Log on to my YouTube channel and subscribe and like and interact with me. Send me pictures and questions. Every day I get pictures and questions about spiders and snakes and salamanders. And if you find a young black snake, let me know, because I want to do an episode on young black snakes, because young black snakes are killed more than any other snake. People tell me over and over again they killed a copperhead, and almost every time it's been a juvenile black snake because they're not black. They have a mottled pattern on them. So thank you for watching. I enjoyed my time with you this morning. We'll see you later.